A person named John Jones entered a cave near Utah Lake with the intention of exploration. During the exploration, he decided to set a new record by entering the narrowest part of the cave. Little did he know that this decision would be the last of his life. He was crawling through the narrow passages of the cave, known as Nutty Putty, but lost his way and mistakenly entered a part of the cave that no one had ever gone to before. A space as narrow as a grave, where moving hands was impossible, let alone breathing, and unfortunately, John got stuck upside down in this condition. This is the story of 26-year-old John Jones, whose last 27 hours of life were spent in this cave. Welcome back to another video on the Explorer Vault. Viewers, near Utah's Salt Lake City are small rock formations where the hydrothermal cave known as Nutty Putty is located. Discovered in 1960 by a person named Dale Green, this cave has since become a popular destination for adventurous youths to test their skill. Nutty Putty Cave is famous for its narrow, slippery, and winding passages, with only one entrance, which is merely 30 inches wide. Meaning only those whose chest and waist measure less than 30 inches can enter. Every year, approximately 20,000 people visited to hone their caving skills, but between 1999 and 2004, several accidents raised questions about the cave's safety. In one instance, a 23-year-old was stuck for 7 hours, and in another, a young man was trapped upside down for an entire night. Due to these incidents, the Nutty Putty Cave was closed in 2006. However, professional cavers argued that the cave should only be closed to inexperienced cavers, as they were the ones often getting stuck. On the other hand, officials stated that Nutty Putty Cave was no less than a ticking time bomb that could claim lives at any moment. The debate between professional cavers and officials continued, and eventually, the cave was reopened in 2007 with new rules. A management committee was formed to grant access only to those with significant caving experience and professional equipment. Visitors had to apply for a permit 21 days in advance, and John Jones, along with his brother Josh Jones, applied for one. On November 24, 2009, at 8 p.m., 26-year-old John Jones entered the Nutty Putty Cave system with his group. Both brothers had some prior caving experience, but this was their first time in Nutty Putty. For the first hour inside the cave, everything went smoothly, and they explored the largest cavity called Big Slide. That was the point when John, Josh, and two other friends decided to venture deeper into the cave's most challenging part, called the birth canal. The birth canal is so narrow that very few people have ever approached it. It's not just extremely tight but also difficult to locate. Many have gotten stuck on their way to the birth canal in the past. However, John, his brother, and two friends, being fit, decided to proceed while the rest of the group stayed behind. The idea of going to the birth canal was actually John's. Hence, he was leading the group. The path was so narrow that John was crawling on his stomach. Thinking he was heading toward the birth canal, he unknowingly took a wrong turn and ended up on a path called the corkscrew. This was a spot meant only for the slimmest of cavers. On the cave map, John should have turned right toward the birth canal. However, he took a left turn. As he advanced, the path became even narrower, leaving him unable to turn back. He continued forward, hoping the path would widen ahead, allowing him to turn around. Spotting a downward section, he thought he might turn around there. But things took a worse turn when he entered a 10 by 18-inch space that ended in a dead end. John was now trapped upside down in a space as narrow as a washing machine. His head was down, legs up, and the space was so tight that even his arms were pinned against his body. He couldn't even use his hands. John tried several times to free himself, but none of his efforts succeeded. At this point, John began calling out to his brother. A few minutes later, Josh arrived and could only see John's legs. Initially, Josh made fun of the situation, but realizing the seriousness, he panicked. Josh tried pulling his brother's legs multiple times, but this made things worse as John slipped further down. John was now stuck upside down, unable to move his body. Both brothers realized they needed professional help. The problem was that there was no mobile signal deep in the cave to call 911. Josh had to leave the cave to make the call and then return to John's location. Approximately 3 hours later, the first rescue team arrived. Susie Motola, a rescuer, spent 2 hours trying to free John, but he was stuck far worse than anticipated. The space was so tight that Susie even cut John's jeans to create an additional centimeter of room, but it didn't help. Exhausted, Susie came out. Outside, John's wife, his young daughter, and around 30 other rescue workers had gathered. They brainstormed different methods to free John, including the extreme option of amputating his legs. However, they ultimately decided to use a system of ropes and pulleys to try and pull him out by his legs. The problem was that the pulleys had to be anchored into the cave walls by drilling into the rocks in such a way that the ropes wouldn't rub against the stone, and all the force would be on the pulleys. While drilling, there was always the risk of the rocks breaking and further blocking the way. But for now, there was no other viable option. During the drilling process, some stones slid down and fell on John. Performing such a rescue operation 700 feet underground was not only challenging but also time-consuming. Additionally, the narrow passage allowed only one rescuer at a time to work on him. Meanwhile, the number of rescuers outside had grown to over 100, but they couldn't do much. Things took a grim turn when a doctor among the rescue team made the situation even more serious. He explained that because John was upside down, he had only about 10 hours left. This meant that after that time, his organs would begin to fail one by one. The human body is designed to function upright with the heart positioned in the upper body. The heart pumps blood to the entire body, with about 80% of the blood being supplied to the lower parts of the body. Gravity assists this blood flow to the lower body. However, since John was upside down, his heart had to work much harder to pump 80% of the blood upwards to the lower body. This put his heart under extreme stress, and the doctor warned that John could suffer a heart attack at any time. Realizing this, the rescuers intensified their efforts to at least get John upright. After hours of preparation, the pulley system was finally set up. They began pulling John by his legs. But soon new problems arose. John's legs were in such a position that they couldn't bend. As they pulled his legs, his feet kept hitting the roof of the cave. After much difficulty, they managed to pull John out significantly. For the first time in hours, his face was visible to the rescuers. One of the rescuers later recalled that John's eyes were bloodshot, but his face showed relief. After nearly 19 hours, John finally saw outside the narrow tunnel he had been trapped in. They needed just one more pull to get him out completely. However, at the last moment, one of the pulleys gave way with a sudden jolt. John slipped back into the same position he had been stuck in for nearly 20 hours. In a final attempt to rescue John, they tried drilling and breaking the surrounding rocks to free him. But by then it was too late. John had stopped responding and showed no signs of movement. His wife tried calling out to him over the radio to revive him, but it was in vain. A brave paramedic was sent down to check John's pulse. Unfortunately, the worst was confirmed. On November 25, 2009, at 11:50 p.m., John Jones was declared dead. John's wife couldn't believe the news. She hoped that the pulse check might have been wrong and that her husband was still alive. But the reality was undeniable. John had managed to survive 27 hours in the cave despite the odds, thanks to his strong health. Plans were made to retrieve John's body. One proposal even included splitting the body into two parts for extraction. Ultimately, it was decided to leave John's body in the cave. The Nutty Putty Cave was permanently sealed and declared John Jones's final resting place. Today, John's body remains in the Nutty Putty Cave, a grim reminder of the dangers of cave exploration. A plaque has been placed outside the cave in his memory. Hope you all will like and share this video from the Explorer Vault. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.